so I think that perhaps like the witches in here, there's the three women in the Tales, or the Fountain of Fair Fortune, and then Babby Rabbity, and they're all, and then also the woman in Wizard's Fairy Heart. They're all very commonsensical, and they're all, pretty much, they have good things at heart, whereas the men seem to be more foolish.
Even the girl in the Warlock's Fairy Heart, which was the prize among all, girls in the land, she wasn't just pretty. She had a lot of sense, and she saw things, and she's not named though, so it's a little bit of a thinner.
Well, neither is the Warlock.
But neither is the Warlock. It's a very good observation, Caroline.
I think she got pushed into that relationship. Oh, I recall, the family was the one that really encouraged her to go on to the castle. Sure, he's a good guy, and he's got a castle, he'll take care of you. But otherwise, this girl was smart, educated. She didn't have any need for another man's wealth. She could just go off and have whoever she wanted. For some reason, she picked this guy.
How did you all react to that story? Like, were you grossed out by it, or were you like, this is... Really? This is so interesting. Is your truth?
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be. I thought that before, I read the synopses on Amazon before this came out, and I thought that Fountain of Fair Fortune would be my favorite. Fountain of Fair Fortune would be my favorite. But when I read it, Warlock's Fairy Heart, I think it's that Brothers Grimm aspect of it. It makes it like a fairy tale we know, but it tells such a really intriguing story about how the heart becomes more animalistic, and
it's just terribly beautiful. That's why I like it. It's beautifully tragic, and so it shows the downside of just what a selfish human nature can do, and how magic can only compound that, because you can do so many more things. It means you can do so many more things wrong as well. And you can, like that law they talk about here, you don't mess with the fundamental laws of, dang it.
That's Albert Waffling's Fundamental Law of Magic. I have it written down here in notes. Did you hear that question?
Who?
This guy.
Does it mention that she's actually a witch? Because it usually refers to her as just the maiden.
It does mention her as a witch. She is a witch of prodigious skill. Prodigious skill and possessed of much gold. Her beauty was such that it tugged the heart of every man who sets eye on her, except for this one, the Warlock's spell.
Yeah.
She was a witch of prodigious skill. But that's the one thing that I find interesting about her character, is the fact that every man who set eyes upon her, except for this one. I think that's what intrigued her about him, which I think is more of a negative quality for her.
That's a very
So it's
common
the Edward situation.
It is.
Oh, I said it's the Edward situation. The Johnny Six.
It's a very common girl trait, I think, isn't it? Like, especially they're like, oh, why doesn't this one like me? I'm going to pay attention to him and see what's going on there.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Yeah. I knew girls like that.
Well, the reason I asked how you all reacted to it was because we had a real split in our office about it. Like, the people who had read these. Like, well, not about this tale itself. We thought it was fascinating, and I think Terrible Beauty is a great term for it. But like, Arthur's and my favorite tale was both The Fountain of Fair Fortune.
So is mine.
Okay, and then our assistant, who is a very, very sweet and wonderful girl, like Emily Clement, totally unexpectedly, to me anyway, loved The Wizard's Fairy Heart. And I was like, this reveals an aspect of you I've never known before. Like, just because this, and you too, just because it feels like very gothic and dark. And I was like, wow, that's interesting to know.
I keep visioning, I see in my head the castle and like the characters from Beauty and the Beast.
Yes.
I totally see Lumiere and Cogsworth running around. Well, I can see them existing there. And it is sort of similar. I see the same castle, and it's like the Beast is somebody that wasn't really welcoming love, but he desperately needed it to transform again. And the other guy in this story has nothing to do with love until someone teases him and makes him to be like less of a person. And then he's interested in it just to accomplish and just so people will think better of it, but he never really valued it, never embraced it for the right ways.
My son didn't want to read that story, and And I wondered if there was any children that were kind of like leery of reading those children, because a lot of fairy tales, like I remember just being terrified of like those Grimm brothers, whatever they're called. I mean, I thought they were just horrible. Children were always getting eaten by scary wolves and all kinds of, I mean, like what kind of endearing things. Now, I know it's not Disney-fied and you can have morals, but man, and then you think this heart is just, you know, I don't know. So did anyone else, family members or children themselves, react kind of negatively to the Harry Potter?
I babysit, and one of the girls babysat, she loves the Harry Potter books, and she has a little brother who's 7, and I was telling her about all the stories, and I remember I was doing the Royal Lux Harry Hart, and the father went, and he didn't want, and because apparently the son scares incredibly easily, and I can see as I was telling the story, his face just got white, and I felt really bad afterwards, but he forgot about it in 5 minutes, thank goodness, but yeah, I remember that one was the worst for him.
Do you know why I think it is?
But that was so interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. But I just thought it was interesting that Joe chose to put something so... I mean, sure, there's a murder. The book starts out, the Harry Potter series starts out with a murder, obviously, but this was just so... It was a little more gruesome, if you want to use a word for it, than I was used to coming from. I don't know. That was kind of interesting to see.
I think the image that just keeps... almost the only thing I remember from this story immediately as I think about it is the fact that he was licking and stroking her heart. I mean, it was gross.
It goes to show that liking unhealthy relationships, he's just gonna rip your heart out. You know what I mean? It's like the guy that's not good for you, it's like, you know what? Stop it.
I think we need to popularize in the Muggle world the term the hairy heart. Like, you know, this guy who just cheats on you and won't talk to you or whatever like that. Oh, he's got a hairy heart. We should just, you know, put a term like that. But, I mean, speaking to your point, Sue, like in Dumbledore's commentary, he talks about that many parents do not share it with their children because they think they are old enough to not to suffer nightmares. So, which, I mean, one of the things I'm always intrigued by when I look at this commentary is like the subtle way she seems to be talking about censorship. And, you know, like particularly in lovely Beatrice Bloxham.
I love that. That was so clever.
Who else thought of Laura Mallory? With Beatrice Bloxham. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
You know, that's a good point. That's a very good point about it, you know, but it was kind of reassuring for me as a parent going, okay, here's Dumbledore who's thinking that far ahead when he's writing these notes, you know, he realizes that, you know, but at the same time though, I just thought it was really interesting to Joe, but I'm glad that she put it in, you know, but I can understand why there's, you know, like my son he just skipped that chapter.
See, what I really...
Fair enough. You know, he's not ready. Yeah.
What I really liked about this story is just it shows that there are consequences to your actions, and sometimes consequences can be very dire. And so I think it's nice that's a nice moral to convey, and sometimes it's not nice. It's actually very horrible, and I think it's good, I guess.
Well, one of the other ways which it talks about censorship is with the Wizard and the Hopping Pot, about how the story became a story for an anti-Muggle story. It's really a pro-Muggle story, but it becomes an anti-Muggle story. It's retold over the years from anti-Muggle people who portray the Hopping Pot as saving the wizards by eating up the pitchfork and torch-bearing people who surround, like they absorb it, eats it up, swallows them whole. Like, there it is. So,
It's like I see like a Pac-Man hopping pot, just hopping around the city, just swallowing the people, and then spitting them up later when they've all learned.
This needs to be an internet game.
Yes, so fun. Eat the muggles and hop around on a foot. It'd be hard to control though because it's really hard to steer a 1 foot hopping pot.
So we'll call up EA, we'll say, okay, this will be your like bonus game, side game. Okay, we'll have that on. Yeah, that'd be a cool one.
It'd be one of those frustratingly hard games to play on the DVDs that come out that nobody ever does. Never get to the deleted scenes.
also, we found out at the end of that story in the notes about the circumstances around Nicholas de Lindsay Porkington's death. That it was witch hunting and he was stripped of his wand.